Hi, good night. My name is Edison Thomas, and we're back on another beautiful Monday. It's the 1st of May. Happy May Day for everyone who celebrates May Day. And we are live in Tobago Update Studios for another episode of For the Hour. Again, my name is Edison Thomas. I will be your host/moderator for this afternoon, guiding you through the discussion, guiding you through the paces with our esteemed panel. All right, tonight we want to really address a very serious topic. And if I'm less than my jovial self, then you understand that the topic that we have tonight is a very heavy one. And tonight that topic is we're going to discuss crime. All right, crime has been one of a pain in the side of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago for decades now, and administration comes and goes. Every day we are trying to deal with crime, because when it is that even smaller crimes take place, it inconveniences the citizens of this great island, right? And even larger crimes, we're talking about violent crimes such as murders. It rocks Tobago to its core because we are such a small island, right? Everyone is familiar with each other. And so when it is that we lose a loved one, we lose a brother, a husband, a friend, a work colleague, right? That person tends to be very well known in the Tobago space. So in this small space, when those kind of things happen, it rocks us to our core. And we don't want to see that continue on this great island, all right? So we are going to discuss tonight, how are we going to get a grip on this small island crime? We have had, for the year 2023 so far, our 4th murder, heading into our 5th month, all right? And you might say, even though folks watching in Trinidad might say, that's small numbers, we're doing higher than that, and that might be greater concern. But as I said, for a small island, to be having even just one murder, it rocks us to our core. All right, so we're going to have a great discussion tonight on crime and getting our grips on crime in Tobago. And to introduce our panel tonight, esteemed heavy hitters in crime, in the crime and criminology space, right, in the protective services space. So firstly, I want to introduce Mr. Rodel Kirk, Superintendent of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, a man from the village I grew up in Golden Lane, right? I have great respect for him, all right? We also have Mr. Anselm Richards, right? I didn't know this about Mr. Richards, but he's a former police officer. I did not know that about you. So, as well as being one of the chief economists that we have in Tobago, right? Working in the division of finance. Right, and we also have Mr. William Nurse, who's a criminologist and a former assistant police commissioner of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Right, so we have experience from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service sitting down here. I must be careful what I say, because I don't want to incriminate myself tonight and get myself in any kind of problems with the law. All right, so but gentlemen, good afternoon. Right, welcome to Tobago Update. It's great having you, and we're looking forward to have a great, fruitful discussion tonight on how are we going to really get our grips on crime in Tobago. All right. So first things first. Again, the trajectory on crime has been going up. I have been saying that we get a little break, a ease up for COVID. We see that you could have use that as a foundation to move forward, to keep it at that level and decrease it. But it seems as though the crime has been skyrocketed last year coming into this year, all right? And thus, we saw that the heads of government came together in a crime symposium recently to discuss, as a region, how we're going to get our grips on crime. But I want to ask the gentleman here tonight, first, not how to get our grips. And we know crime what causes crime is multifaceted, right? But from each person's perspective, what they would think was one of the major contributing factors we have in crime, that are going on in crime, especially in this small island here in Tobago. What have you been seeing? Mr. Kirk, we're going to start with you.
Right. Good evening to you, Edison. Good evening to your viewers and listeners. First of all, I want to put on a record that although you highlighted that crime has skyrocketed, in the Tobago space, what we have seen, especially in 2023, as of April 22nd, the last amount of information I have, is that we have seen a decrease by 32% of serious crimes. Although we started the year with 4 murders, one of which a person was arrested and charged.
Nice.
In relation to the other serious crimes, I want to put on record that we have seen a decrease so far, having compared with the previous year.
And I will give you kudos for that. Right? So what do you think is one of the major contributing factors?
Well, as you said it, crime and the causes of crime and criminality is a multifaceted thing. There is no single cause, right? What I've observed over the last few years, we have criminal elements are becoming more organized and strategic in their movements. So that could be one of the things, the influences that we have out here is one of the things. I have no data to say, well, crime may be caused by unemployment or by social ills, or no single one. There are many things that could result in the causes for crime, especially in the Tobago space.
Right. Okay. I'm going to pass the question over to you, Mr. William Nurse. What do you think? Anything that sticks out to you about any trends that leads to the crimes that we are seeing in the Tobago, but the country at large?
Thank you.
Extended.
Good night to everybody, your viewers. Good night to you, Edison.
Good night. Good night.
Now, Tobago has an invisible population that is not recorded anywhere, and that has been for me for years a grave concern. The second thing is, if we do not manage our tourism product well enough, the little guest houses in the little corner that people seldom know and people visit. But what is important is that the Tobago culture is important. A country's culture is important to almost everything it does. It pervades, it's pervasive. There is nobody who can imitate the Tobago dialect as well as the Tobagonian. Right. And that has been, while I served, that was a yardstick I used to measure and to know who I'm speaking with. Crime is nothing to play with. It is worse than the growth of a snake in the mang, to borrow Dr. Morgan Job's words. It is dangerous. It ought never to be politicized. It is everybody's business to ensure that we have a safe and secure environment. As for the Tobago space, it is even more crucial that you manage crime, given the fact that we are exposing ourselves and projecting ourselves on the international circuit as a tourism destination. As a matter of fact, yesterday, a good friend of mine from Maryland called me and told me she went to church and a group of pastors did a chain of island visit. And the island that stood out the most was Tobago.
Okay.
I want to tell Tobagonians, crime is almost everywhere. Wherever there is economic development, there is crime. That's one of the attending negatives to the economic development. But we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And if we can get this message across that we can solve this problem, we can solve the problem of crime, but we must do it together. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Richards, what say you?
Thank
I know you could watch it from a numbers standpoint, an economic standpoint. You could you know?
No, me just say good night to the listening, the viewing audience, and good night, Edison. Thanks for having us.
Right.
I wouldn't say me, but us.
Right.
You know, we are all from the same fraternity. Yeah, I see that you just discovered one of the major crimes in Tobago. That I come from a law enforcement background, and you have solved that one tonight.
Right.
So that is a step in the right direction. But in terms of crime, and in Tobago case, I think the problem we're having is we have an evolving society, and the morals and values of the society has changed drastically over the last 2 decades in this country. You know, if you go back to the yesteryears of Tobago, you see a stranger in your community, everybody will try to find out who this man, who is related to. Those things are not happening. And we could understand why the values of the society and probably the world is changing, because the world is becoming less in person. Everybody going cyber, people not interacting, the relationship, and everybody is going into their own spaces and locked away. So that community social bond that provided social protection, social crime control, those things have evaporated.
Right.
So you have people coming into the space, people accommodating people, renting them, and so forth. So that whole changing structure of the society and the values that goes with that, those are the enabling environment. Those are the enabling factors that are going to provide a breeding ground for crime.
Right.
Traditionally, we were close-knitted. We are island of communities, families, and we knew each other. That is not the case. Even within families, there are division. Right. And coupled with that, we have a collapse in the criminal justice system, in law and order in this country. Right. So those are the factors that are giving life to criminality in this space, giving life to violence, and then you have a deterioration in the economic and social experiences of the people. Right. So those things coming together are going to create an environment of criminal crime.
Environment. And so tonight we want to tackle it. We want to tackle the crime, not only what causes it, but what can we do to help combat it in each area. And it touch on the judicial system, right? There have been many times or many examples where we see prosecution happening for persons who have committed crimes, whether it be non-violent or violent, happening years down the road, right? And that person might be able to commit more crimes in between, waiting for a court date or waiting to be tried or whatever the case may be, right? What does the criminal justice system have to, the role that they have to play in order to have crime, to have a handle on the perpetrators?
All right, so basically the criminal justice system constitute 3 critical institutions: the police service, the judiciary, and the prison. Those are the major institutions. The society embraces all of that. So we wouldn't deal with the society that manages all of that in a social construct. But what you need, and I was saying to our colleagues before we get on air, is that in this country, we have been looking at crime through one eye, the eyes of the police service. Right. And then you have the prison that is not functioning. Right. They are not doing the rehabilitation work in any significant way too. So when you pass through the prison system and you come back a better person to recycle in society.
And not end up in crime.
Right. You have the judiciary that is failing all of us. To get justice in this country is a crime in itself. Right. To get justice in this country. So you have that. So you have what is the Chief Justice name?
Mr. Archie.
You have Mr. Archie, Iva Archie, and them judges up there doing their own thing, and nothing in terms of the delivery of justice is a problem in this country. And justice is expensive. And you have the magistracy is another issue there. So we need to clean that up. We need to create an efficient judiciary that will deal justice denied. Justice delay is justice denied. We need to have swift. A guy must know, an offender must know that if he commits a crime today, in 30 days he is done, prison, hang, executed, where the case is, wherever the penalty is, it is implemented. Right. And to push that forward, we need a very efficient, effective, modernized police service. Yeah. Right? What we have a police service, to me, that needs to be updated. You know, a Calypsonian say, update your man. We need to update the police service. You know, the patterns and characteristics of crime has changed over time.
Right.
And I don't think we can fight crime with the same old institutional outfit. And even the Ministry of National Security, they need to respond to the changing environment. I wrote a paper and said we need to create 3 major divisions in the Ministry of National Security. One, we say the Department of Internal Security.
Yeah.
Right? 2, the Department of Border Control.
Right.
And the other one was the Department of Defense.
Okay.
Which will be really the Army.
Right.
So in the Army will deal with national defense.
Right.
So you defense against external aggression. Internal security, you have the police, customs, customs, all the internal public health and all deal with public safety. Border control, you have custom, Coast Guard controlling your borders.
Right.
To me, that gives you a neater fit to deal with how crime happens in this country.
Okay.
Right, but that is a matter for the politician to deal with.
Politicians, eh?
Yeah, I am only a researcher and a technical advisor.
Mr. Nurse, having just come out of, if I'm not mistaken, just came out of the service, right?
Yes.
Right. So, Mr. Richard just touched on our topic. He said that some of the procedures of the police service need to be updated, right? To kind of deal with the current times and the modern criminal. What do you, having just come out of the service, is there, do you share his sentiment?
Well, let me go back to the traditional outfit just for a little while. Today you are a uniform officer and you could not investigate some crimes. Tomorrow they take off your uniform and put you in plain clothes and you're a detective.
Right.
I have looked at the English model of being a detective, and the detective in England is special, right? So he is not, most times he conducts the investigation where the patrol officer can't make.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
There is need for some changes, but investigation takes and maintains that traditional hardcore investigation method where it's here and writing.
Okay.
Right? Because when you sit down to interview a suspect for, say, a homicide, if you don't have it here, and you have to think off your feet, you can't write every question you want to ask.
True.
You understand what I'm saying? Now, we can add, as a matter of fact, let me go back a little bit. In the 1900s, the English court developed the principle laid down in Wilmington versus the DPP. He says, every man is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
You understand? It's the bedrock of democratic society. Now you have to prove the guilt of the man and not the man to prove his innocence. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So what you do is that you add new things, new dimension to criminal investigation. So you add intelligence.
Right.
You open yourself to information. As a matter of fact, I worked with Mr. Kerr while we were in the homicide. And the Tobago space, the amount of information that flow in when we have a murder, sometimes you have to be careful.
Right.
So we need to add intelligence. But we cannot altogether throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? The criminal justice system, it has, in my view, some graves in the road.
Yeah.
Not puddles, not puddles.
Graves.
It's graves in the road. And we need to fill them. We need to, as a matter of fact, there must be congruence.
All right.
Among in the criminal justice system. I'll give you one example. At one point in time, I was responsible for all the major investigations in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
Every one.
Okay. Okay.
And there was one where we were there was when we were having troubles at a particular office. And I said the only way to get this thing done is to go and get a warrant and search the government office. So I went to the judicial officer with that responsibility, and that judicial officer told me, you need a judge to give you this warrant. I said, no. If you look at the law, it says a magistrate or justice, meaning justice of the peace. And I direct your attention to section 5, chapter 1201. The person read it, he looked at me, he said, okay. He said, but we are on the same level. I said, no, that might be so in terms of pay, but you are judicial, and that person is administrative.
Right.
So if you want a warrant to search the commissioner's office, I must give you, you have to give me.
Yes.
And it is as, what I just told you is exactly what I told the person. They said, well, I'll have to take legal advice on this.
Hi.
That's the 17th of November, the 1st of November 2017. I'm coming home to Tobago, it was a Friday.
Yeah.
And the office called. Mr. Ness, what offenses are we looking at here? Perjury. The thing is, nobody tells, now nobody comes and speaks about the trouble police get with those public servants.
Right.
In terms of white-collar crime, we cannot investigate white-collar crime because the evidence is reposed in a public officer who will not even want to go to court.
Right. Right.
It's crippling the system.
Right.
So how do we reform that?
Right.
That's the issue.
So you're saying the public servants need to be able to cooperate and be willing to cooperate with the police service in order to aid their investigations in certain crimes when it's happening.
What I'm saying is that unless we put our country first, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Put your country first. It's not me, because I'm a little Tobago boy from up in Richmond Point, Bush. But when it comes to doing the police work, I am William Nurse, the police officer. I was William Nurse, the police officer.
Right.
And too many people don't want to step on toes.
Right.
And that's where we are falling down. It's like an old boy syndrome. And that was spoken of in a book written by Professor William Griffith when he painted the gloomy pity of the English judiciary. Don't feel that this is Trinidad and Tobago alone. You know, we are a growing country. We're still in our infancy.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But, you know, we have to begin to find ways to put Trinidad and Tobago first in all our interaction and everything we do and say.
Right.
That's where we are.
Nice, nice. And I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. All of us, whether it be the police service, the private sector, the public sector, or the public servants, crime is affecting everybody. It's not just affecting the persons who will be immediately around the victims. You understand? But there are ripple effect throughout society. You understand?
But in that ripple effect, there are persons who are benefiting. You know, there's the economics of
So
crime.
we want to go down that road, Mr. Anston? Maybe go down that road?
Well, that's my expertise. If you want to talk about the economics of crime, we could have that conversation. But let Mr. Kirk.
Yes, but I want to talk to Mr. Kirk about a specific thing here, right? I heard a story in my youth, right? Growing up in Golden Lane. I don't know how true it is, but I'll tell you a story, right? There was a situation, escalation that went out between two bad boys, let me say in Seaview, right? And one of the boys, men, pull out a gun. When he pulled out the gun to threaten the next person, he had to pelt the gun because he didn't have no bullets for the gun. And this was a long time ago, right? But now we're seeing that the bullets are becoming ever so accessible, because back then you could have get a gun and no bullets straight. But now you're getting the bullets one time.
Might get a gun.
You might get a gun. Right? So we see that arms and ammunition now is becoming a little bit more prevalent and more easily accessible. The role that the gun plays, I want you to frame up for me how far Tobago has come in tackling that issue. We know that Trinidad has a big problem with illegal firearms, but in terms of Tobago, How are we with that?
To answer your question, Tobago is not immune from Trinidad, and it's just that only now you see in the people start using the tools that they have. It's not that they didn't have it before. So, in answering your question again, crime has become a global phenomenon, and Mr. Richards talked about the when he started. He said that there are several persons who investigate crime should be in. To put it in another way, he mentioned three major bodies in respect to crime.
Right.
The thing about it, if we can't hide the fact that through our legal ports and illegal ports of entry, firearm continue to be that
comes in.
It comes in.
Yeah.
It's very, if we focus mainly on that, we will tend to prevent some of them from landing here. And again, Mr. Nils talk about intelligence. Now, if we use our intelligence-led policing and we collaborate with all the agencies involved in this thing, maybe we could stem some of the entries coming in with firearm within it. But what I want to see, Tobago is so easily accessible. And you would probably have some information that I might have. You know, even on our side on the North Coast, pirogues land in our area within hours from Toko.
Yes.
So you know that there has been the to and fro and the to and fro, and it's so easy to bring in firearm in our island.
Right.
And I told you again, it comes both the illegal ports of entry and through the legal means, because there are many times firearms were intercepted coming off the ferry.
The ferry, yes.
So it's not something people fear again. You realize people are, the criminal element are not afraid to take the chances anymore. To try to bring it, because it's a main tool of trade now with everything that they do.
Yes.
But just to add what Superintendent would have said, and I made the point about the need for us to, our institution, to be reformed and respond to the changing patterns of crime. So I made the point that, for me, if I had my way, I reconstruct the Ministry of National Security into three major divisions. The issue of the Department of National Defense and the Department of Border Control will be designated basically to deal with these drugs and these firearms entering the country.
Right.
And then you have the police service and the other supporting agencies and so forth, dealing with internal security and public safety. If we don't structure the institution and give it the resources to deal with those component aspects of the crime lanes or lakes that flow into this crime flood that we're experiencing, we are not going to be able to solve the crime problem. Right, so that's one. The issue of firearm in Tobago. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, we talk about firearm and so forth. We have allowed the situation to deteriorate to the point that in certain communities, a firearm is a necessary tool for survival.
Yes.
Because if you don't have a firearm and you're living in a particular area and the gunman come for you, you're dead. But if you get the firearm, you have an opportunity to survive. If you get off your shot first, if you don't have to pelt yours and you have a bullet, you could survive. No, but we sit down here and we don't understand, and that is something we have a problem with in this country. We don't understand the social construct of society and the values and the culture that driving these behaviors of people. And we try to park them and dumpster fire them and so forth. But if we really want to deal with crime, and I heard the region is now talking about crime as a public health issue. And that means that they had to treat crime from three levels. The primary, secondary, and tertiary. And if we're talking primary, we're talking about dealing with those social, environmental construct, poverty, unemployment, education, and so forth, and that kind of thing. When we talk about the tertiary level, we talk about the prison system, how they deal with people. You know, tertiary like hospital. You have people in the hospital, we're treating them. Primary is preventative, where we're preventing people from getting sick.
Right.
So I'll leave that there.
All right, and on that note, we're going to take a break. All right, so we're going to pay some bills and come back, and when we come back, we're going to continue the discussion on how are we going to get a grip on crime in Tobago. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Welcome to L'Image Parfait Day Spa, your urban oasis and wellness center. Our services includes massages, treatments, facials, pedicures, weight management, detox programs, and much more. Call us today at 624-1452 or 720-7474. Trinidad locations and Bonacore, Tobago at 273-7772. Let us treat you like the VIP you are.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
All right, and we're back with For the Hour. My name is Edison Thomas, and we have our esteemed panel here of servicemen, whether it be current or retired.
Or not so current.
Or not so, not so current. And we're talking about getting a grip on crime in Tobago. Of course, a very serious topic. And we really need to be able to preserve life in Tobago. We don't want to see anybody else go down. All right, and we left the conversation talking about firearms and how the firearms are getting into the island, right? But I want to shift the conversation on firearms a little bit further, right? So we have heard from coming out from the United States all the time. The gun lobbyists in the United States, they always say, a good guy with a gun is the only person who could stop a bad guy with a gun, right? In Trinidad and Tobago, we know it for a fact that it's pretty difficult for a regular civilian to be able to put their hand on a firearm. For self-protection, of course, right? And we are seeing they are making moves to even get certain types of firearms more difficult to acquire for the law-abiding citizen, right? So I want to get your opinion. I want to start, Mr. Anselm. Is it is making it less accessible to the public? Because you talk about just now, it get to a point where in a community where they have a hotspot or wherever, getting a firearm is the only way to protect yourself from these criminals. Is it moving in the right direction to make firearms less accessible for the law-abiding citizen?
Well, the issue of firearm and legal and illegal firearm is a very complex issue. It's not a straight line equation, right? Because the management of a firearm is not an easy thing as people feel it is, right? Because if you have a firearm and you have children at home, you could end up having casualties or fatality in your home if you rest your firearm there and your child pick it up and fire it. The management of firearm is a very complex issue. The availability of firearm for the general public I don't think this society is really at that place so you can open the floodgate. I think Gary Griffith tried that, and we see what's the consequence of that. And also what you can do, you can create an invitation for would-be criminals to now attack firearm holders, stick them up at the gate. And when you have a firearm and it is known, you become a target, because them fellas want it. Right. So we have to decide. I think the bigger challenge for us is how do we restore law and order? Okay. How do we build back community social control and those kinds of things? How do we discipline? How do we create safety from the cradle to the grave in terms of how we culture and socialize our children with respect, obedience, and so forth? Those are the sustainable issues. Firearm wouldn't sustain peace. Those are the things that will sustain peace. So if you want, we could arm everybody and we start to shoot one another across Scarborough, Charleville, and see who will survive at the end of the day. So I don't think that is the solution to the problem. I think the solution to the problem, we have to go and re-engineer our social control system, how we educate our children, how we socialize them, the church, the role of the church, schools, the home, the family, the politician, the leaders. Because the family, the leader of the family takes on the attitude of the father,
Right.
If you have a father who gel, the house is straight, But if your father absent, everybody do their own thing, It's similar like the country.
Right.
The country, the leadership of the country is important in this whole issue of crime management. The leadership and how we treat with issues. You hear Mr. No say about the difficulty in investigating white-collar crime or blue-collar crime, call it what you want.
Yeah.
And when it involves high office holders, you can't get the evidence. So when you start to use the state, the apparatus of the state to protect offenders in your government, you have a problem with crime.
Big problem. Mr. Nurse, you have anything to say about the accessibility of the firearms? Should we make it more accessible to the law-abiding citizens or not?
I'll start by asking a question. If the citizenry are engaged in banditry, should the police infuse into that situation firearms for protection? That's rhetorical. Don't answer. The answer is no. The answer is no. Now, we are such a lawless society, and here now, we are lied to the core, We lied. The society lied. And a few weeks ago, somebody came to me and we were talking. That person was a client of mine, and we were talking. They said, boy, I have some money from a contract, over $100,000. I said, well, why not put it in so and so and so and so and so? He said, no, that's taking too long. There was a period of time in Trinidad and Tobago, and that was after the 1995 to 2001 period, where we saw the investigation of the Piaco airport.
Right.
And we saw several government ministers charged, including a prime minister.
Yeah.
What I thought would have happened after that was the new incoming government will develop an approach to talking to the citizens to quiet their fears, because money became this thing that is most sought after and by any means necessary. That did not happen. What happened after that was an increase was the acceptance of the SRC report to increase salaries for plenty people. So when you ask the young fella in Trinidad and Tobago, what you want to be, boy? What you want to do? But I want nice car, boy. I want nice house. I want it too, That's the language.
Yeah.
So the little job on the side of the road for which you're barely qualified cannot pay you enough money
to get you
Remember I told you that scenario from 1995 to 2001 when people see money flowing from illegal activities in high places.
Yes.
And nothing was done. So that little fella, what you gonna tell him, boy? Go and walk on the side of the road. That money can't pay he again as far because he has his eyes on big things.
Yes,
in other words, crime in Trinidad and Tobago falls in my belief in the that concept of using Emile Durkheim and who said that crime everybody sort of seeks after the American dream, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, like riches, wealth. Many of us don't have the legal means to the legal end. And it has formed in Trinidad and Tobago a subculture. And in that subculture, bear in mind I ask the little boy what you want. I want a nice house and a nice car. And in that subculture is all the dirty things you could think about. Murder for money, robbery for money. And let me tell you something. We have to be careful when we are to attack it now. Because anytime you hear they're getting enough and they start attacking our judicial officers, we are in serious trouble. And there's where we are. I think there are 3 institutions in a child's life. Whether we like it or not, painful as it may be, we've got to return to them. I'm an attorney at law. When I was 15 years old, I went to Roxborough Trade Center and I did masonry. I wasn't satisfied. I went back again and I did carpentry and joinery. I am very good with my hands. I do that. Children are not learning trade. People want cabinet makers and they're making there's avenue to make millions of dollars. But we don't do that. We want the money now. And everything we want it now. So how do we address that?
Early morning, we can sit down on the road today.
So
we get to the nice house,
So we have to. We have to go back, as painful as it is, to the little things. And learning is one of the criteria. One of the criteria that we must use to get there.
Right. So you brought up the institution. So why here coming out of a community, right? The institutions that are surround the youth is what will guide them away from crime, right? So I want to pass this over to Officer Kirk, right? Superintendent, sorry if I disrespect you, that one, right? Superintendent. I might leave the studio in handcuffs tonight. So what can the community do, right, in order to guide these young individuals away from crime? I remember there was a point in time when I went down to Trinidad, when the Beetham, they had the riots in the Beetham when they had killed one of the Beetham residents, and they was bringing tires in the road, and lo and behold, when I driving going down the bus route with going to the Sawa area, passing through the Beetham, who I could see this time school going on, and those boys 12, 11, 13, 14, 15 dragging tires in the road, pelting rocks in the road, lighting up furniture in the road. Where are the little boys bareback in the road running from police? Why they're not in school?
Well, again, Edison, Mr. Richards again raised an issue when he opened his statement. He talked about Tobago culture has changed, and people no longer look out for one another. And he also talked about people lock themselves away and no longer cares.
Right.
So what we need to do from a community perspective is to revive that sort of community spirit where each member of the community looks out for each other in a positive way. Meaning that if you see a young child going astray, you could actually engage that young person.
Right.
But you know what we find? Is that nowadays, nobody cares about one another. You find the adults will pass, the children show no respect, and that has been condoned by some of the guardians and parents of some of these children.
Right.
So, as Mr. Richard mentioned before, Tobago has evolved. And now with the advent of everybody have a device, everybody have something, they have been exposed to a lot of different cultures from throughout the world. And things change. We either need to reach them on a level where they could actually understand us when we engage them. All right, take for instance in your community there, if you pass through there anytime midnight, You see some young, very young children on the roadside.
Very young.
So where are the parents? Right? Not that we blame parents for everything, but we need to take our responsibility as adults within the community.
Right.
And part of our responsibility is to culture that child to grow up in the way we think that where they should grow.
Yeah.
Right? And once we take that responsibility, you know, I think we could make some changes to how these children are influenced in order to become either good or bad persons.
Real direction change, Mr. Kirk, and I want your view on it because you are part of the current police administration in Tobago, right? The Chief Secretary would have signaled his intention to start up a Tobago arm or a Tobago, let me say Tobago control or Tobago administered section of the police service. All right.
Don't misquote the Chief Secretary.
Well, all right.
As his,
Let me let you.
As his technical advisor.
Yes. Let me let you.
Let me let you. Advisor, we will not sit here and allow you to misquote.
No. Let me let you explain.
The Chief Secretary has spoken in the budget statement about setting up what we call a Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
Which will include the THA police under the supplemental police bill, just like the Port Police, City Police, and other agencies in the THA like lifeguard, we bring traffic warden, litter wardens, environmental police, forest rangers, and establish that to create, just like I was saying, that we need to do at the national level, a Department of Public Safety.
Right.
And that would be Tobago internal security.
Security and I think that's the point I was trying to get at,
so
but I just didn't know to phrase it properly.
No,
Go ahead.
So
yes.
It's not the Tobago version of the police service. Because I don't think we want to create the police service that we have today.
In Tobago.
In Tobago space. We want to present an example of what a law enforcement entity should look like. And the person who is leading that is my able attorney here.
Okay. I did not know that. So good.
I'll probably put in Mr. Those on the spot now. But the fact of the matter is, let me go back to the issue of parenting. Yeah. You know, parenting is really a significant issue in the shaping and molding of the minds of your children. Let me tell you something. I sent 2 of my sons in Trinidad in UTT to do engineering. Kimori, my niece, was going to Teachers College at the time, so she rented a place, so they were living there with her. One of them started to get trouble in Trinidad. She called me, she said, "Hey, your son gave you in trouble." I wouldn't call his name. I said, "Huh?" I said, "All right." I said, "Pack up the things that coming from him." And I went down to Trinidad, put him in the van. I said, "When you can conduct yourself outside my home, you will stay in Trinidad. But you will go to school from Tobago. You'll go to school in Trinidad from Tobago every day." And I sent him to school on the fast ferry from Tobago for a year, every day. You go down in the morning and come back in the evening. Do your homework when you're coming up.
Do your homework on the boat?
Oh, yeah, when you come, you just asleep and just come back 5 o'clock. Can't make no mischief. He's an engineer today, a civil engineer today, and he just said that if you give up on me, I don't know how that be. You have to take charge when you're in charge.
Right.
And that's it. You have to take charge. You don't compromise.
I'm going back to my question.
Yes.
Right? The Department of Public Safety, that's it?
Yes.
Do you think that department would get a better grips? And I don't want to contradict what Mr. Kirk said, because he did say that there's a reduction in crime, in serious crime. But would that department, do you think that department would be able to do a better job than the current police service?
No,
let me leave this.
Yes.
So we're not looking to replace.
I want people to understand that the police service is made up of 3 main entities. The police, which has its life from the Police Service Act. The supplemental police, which have its life from the Supplemental Police Act, Chapter 1502, and the Special Reserve Police under 1503. Now, if the Tobago House of Assembly, and they will be, when they set up this Department of Public Safety and Security, it gives the police an ease knowing that internal security of the Tobago House of Assembly is taken care of, and they can deal with the crime out there.
Right.
So the assets of Tobago, the government assets of Tobago will be taken care of.
Okay.
And that's one aspect of it. I wouldn't go into more, but that's just one of the pillars upon which we are building this thing, and we will soon roll it out to the Tobago public. But that gives the police more leverage, more freedom to fight the criminal element.
And may I say, it is not intended to war with the police.
No.
Or to replace the National Police or the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Is a complementary, supportive mechanism.
Okay.
So, for instance, if we have traffic wardens within the THA, Department of Public Safety, it means the police officers who are doing traffic on mornings by the corner,
They don't have to do that.
They don't have to do
They
that.
could focus on serious things.
They could go and patrol up by where you're living, where you say the man pelt the gun behind the man, and them kind of thing. You understand?
Yeah, I don't want to pick Golden in a bad
No,
place.
I'm just saying that, right? So it's not a competitive thing. And there will be an opportunity to complement each other, to share resources, to do joint exercises if there's a need for that. Because remember, on the Supplemental Police Act, the police officers in Tobago will have the same power of arrest in the estate of Tobago as the police officers.
Okay.
So it's the training, the collaboration that is important. What it gives us is a wider security net to cover the island in a more efficient and effective way.
So
right? And to give Mr. Kirk and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service more manpower to go after the hard criminals.
Right.
While we deal with them fellas who on the side of the road, them fellas who are doing their health thing properly, the health shop and so forth, and you make sure your food's safe and all that kind of thing.
But
so that is really the basic thing.
There's also another aspect. Now, in England, the traffic wardens do more of the issuing of tickets.
Yes.
Right.
So the police is now left to, the police have more leverage to investigate road traffic accidents.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? And other things like that. But I don't want to take up Mr. Kirk's time, so go ahead.
No, it's not that. I listened and I heard, but again, people see the role and function as the police as acting as an entity on its own.
Yes.
The police need
Support
from all the other agencies, law enforcement agencies, or other agencies operating within any society in order to succeed. Because the police, although they are responsible for certain things, we don't act alone.
Okay.
So any form of support that the police could have, it lightens the burden on the police. So the police would welcome any, just from my perspective, would welcome any additional support that we could have. But time and time again, you hear things like we operate in silos. Even within organizations, within the law enforcement apparatus, you find communication might break down in some instances. So in the Tobago space, police and investigation is about teamwork.
Right.
So any support in terms of, fighting crime, we from the police will welcome it.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a collaborative and complementary effort.
It's a
Should I
mechanism.
say that?
It's a mechanism that is being engineered to expand public safety in Tobago and not to displace any entity that is mandated by law to engage in its role of providing public safety. But we are expanding that and giving more resources, more assets to ensure that you and the Golden Lane and them fellas up there are safe.
Right.
But putting it,
I don't even Golden Lane again, sorry.
put it simply, is giving more support to the police. That's what it's about.
Yes.
It's because if we get, let us take a phenomenon in Tobago. Is the dropping of derelict vehicles all over the place?
There's a big problem.
Yeah.
Derelict vehicles. Our fellas just don't care.
Yeah.
They breach the law. You left your vehicle broken down on the road. And I was just thinking, if we start doing the little things, if we are bent on, there is no developed country which has become developed country and left their police service behind,
No.
None.
That's the
Not
problem.
England, not America, not Sweden,
none of them.
well, in the whole developed country sphere, the weakest they said was Spain, the French. We have got to develop our police. Now in Trinidad, the police academy trained supplemental police. We have a lot of supplemental police officers in Tobago who have never entered into any form of training. This is what, so we are carving the path that will give Tobago and the police more support. Let us say we have 20 traffic wardens. When they issue their tickets, where they have to go to put it in? Mr. Cook?
In the police.
Right by the police station.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So the police in crime control are leading the way. And if you think, they say how you know a leader, if you're leading, just look back and see if anybody is following. If nobody's following, you're not leading.
You're not leading.
You're not leading. And so the police service is leading, and we want to give them that leadership support. And that's what the THA is doing. And it's costing the THA so much money to do it. But that's for another discussion.
That's another discussion. Well, we're going to get the budget when they come up. Yeah.
You cannot have a crime discussion in 1 hour.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
But let me just make this point. Right? A serious phenomenon we have in the crime fighting and crime management strategy is the evidence to support the police to prosecute cases. More and more people are stepping back from coming forward to support the police in the investigation.
Right.
And we are not in Trinidad and Tobago deploying the technology, electronic surveillance technology that will provide the digital evidence to assist the police. What is the camera coverage in Tobago? Tobago is a small island. We should have Tobago wired to the cork.
Right.
I should see you every time you move. We should have been seeing the man pelting the gun in Golden Lane. It's a little island. And what we could do, we could start, and you see, these are the simple things that we are not doing. The port, major entry for illegal guns into Tobago. And let me tell you something. Tobago can't withstand that. Tobago as a society can't withstand gun violence. It's too small. As you said, we know everybody.
Yeah, we know each other.
Too small. We can't deal with gun violence in this country, and we have to cut it out now. And we need to have. Since I came back to Tobago 23 years ago, I was on a committee with Reyes and Pigot and them to go to England to select an X-ray machine for that port. When me hear thing, Reyes and them there in England, me there to Tobago still, and all kind of thing. And we have nothing there to scan the vehicles to see what is coming in from Tobago.
Yeah,
every night the boat docks up there and vomit out hundreds of trucks with all kind of things, and we don't know what's coming to Tobago. We need to know what is coming up on that boat and what is leaving. That is one. We need to wire the island. We need to ensure that the CCTV system are up across all the major arteries, roadways, secondary roadways, and we need to promote a program where we give household along these roadways incentive to put in cameras. So we wire the whole country. Every time you move, we see you.
Right. Because sometimes you even see CCTV footage coming from a shop, wherever.
But that's what I'm saying. So if you have, let me say by Wilson Road Junction there, you have that covered, and all the houses or the majority of houses along the stretch have. So if a crime committed along the stretch, you pick it up on the crime. If it happens, if the vehicle escape, you see which section it take on the highway. Then you look at it at the next camera.
Yes.
That is how you have to do this thing in the time in which you live in, because people not coming out. And then we have 60,000 phones, all have camera capabilities in Tobago. Why we not recording crime and send the footage to the police? We playing the fool. We're playing the fool. If we want to fix this problem, we have to do the thing to fix it.
Maybe
we can't sit down. Hold on, let me finish. We can't sit down in our ivory towers and blaming the police service has problem.
Yeah.
It needs to be updated. The woman said update man, we have to update the police service. But I'm saying there's much more we can do as a people, as a society, in response to the criminal wave that is drowned in all of us, by doing those simple things. Why are in our homes, be prepared to record it and provide it to the police as evidence? And that's how we're going to live in a safer and more secure Tobago.
Nice. Well, I will have to call it a night. I had to call it there, Mr. Ansem. But if you want,
call it the Mr. Nurse and Mr.
Yeah, but we out of time. The producer give me a strict time.
Who's the producer?
The producer give me a strict time tonight.
You can't bring three big men to talk about crime and give you an hour.
I got to talk to the producer and let him bring all the back on.
Call the producer and tell him we need another hour, man. We know how to talk.
No, we can't extend it. No. Sorry to say, Mr. Richards, right? But I know that you all will have your thoughts and you all will be brimming with ideas on how we can get our grips to this with this with crime in Tobago. I'm pretty sure that we have got, just coming out of this short conversation over an hour, we got a number of different pointers, right? So I hope the public was listening. I hope the leaders were listening as well. But we have to call it a night for tonight. But gentlemen, I thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It has been a pleasure being in the presence of so much law enforcement, so much experience in law enforcement, all right? And again, I
40 years and 30 years, yeah, and another 30
yeah, well,
years. 100 years of experience.
That is probably about 3 times my age in experience.
100 years of policing experience.
3 times my age in experience, right?
Well, just so.
Right? But yes, guys, we're going to call it a night for tonight. Right? Thank you for joining us, Tobago. Thank you for listening. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And we'll be back next week with another fruitful discussion, right? I'll bid you adieu. Have a good night.